Hello, this is Craig Mertens, Director of Product Education for Inktavo, the parent company of Printavo, Graphics Flow, Inksoft, Clarity, and SignTracker. Welcome to the webinar today. I have with me a very special guest. We have Matt Marcotte. Matt is the Director of Go-to-Market Education. I am the Director of Product Education. Between the two of us, I guess we're the Directors of Education. And I'm going to hand off to Matt and let him explain what that actually means.
Yeah, thanks for that, Greg. Yeah, I like to kind of think like Captain Planet style. With our powers combined, we are the education force here at Inktavo. So I think the best way to kind of break it up is Craig really does everything outward facing from the company out to folks like you. And then I work on the internal side to help with success team and the sales team, and then a bit with marketing other teams to help kind of align everything. So we are the tide to the industry, the education and the product to help make sure that we are always going the direction that the industry needs us to go. Happy to be here with Craig today. Happy to join in this webinar. And of course, really stoked to talk about something I love dearly, which is Printavo. So I think, Craig, is that a fair assessment on the you and I split up and how we work?
Yeah, that's perfect. I do a bunch of other cool stuff too and work with the marketing team and the payments team. And but I think the majority of the educational content around the company is Matt and my responsibility. And I think it's really interesting. Matt has that current working in a shop with Sound and Fury experience, and then I have that OG helping run a $15 million a year collegiate apparel business back in the late 80s, early 90s. Lots changed, but we have our roots in this industry, and we're going to share some of our experience and best practices and what we know. And let me tell you why we did this. I felt like it'd been a little while since Printavo had done a webinar, and we went back and we looked at our little channel where Matt and I record videos for new features, and we're like, man, we've been busy back to the beginning of the year. And I said, it would probably be a good idea to just take all this and wrap it up and show, the Printavo, community what we've been up to. Because one of the things that's really aggravating and frustrating in the software business is when you come up with all this great stuff and then people don't utilize it because they don't know about it. But that was, I think, our main impetus behind that. So I recruited Matt to partner up with me, and I'm going to turn it over to Matt, and he's going to lead the first part of the presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Craig. Let me go ahead and kind of dive into what we're talking about right now. So like Craig talked about, really what we're looking to do here is kind of focus on the theme of customer-driven innovation, right? So like Craig talked about, we've been busy. By we, kind of the royal we, not only just Craig and I, but the product team, the marketing team, the development team, sales team, success teams, everybody's been really busy. And we've had a lot of really great innovation and really great ideation and iteration on our products. So one of the first things I want to talk about today with this customer-driven innovation concept is the new receiving and check-in feature that I know for a lot of us Printavo users has been front of mind and front of request for a long, long time. And I really think we knocked it out of the park. So hats off to our new chief product officer, who really helped just kind of align the teams and really kick this one off. And it's really, really awesome. So let's go ahead and jump in. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to talk a little bit about, here we go. Let's go sharing. Talk a little bit about the new receiving and check-in feature. Look at all these orders. Look at that. And one thing I will call out real quick is if your Printavo calendar doesn't look this clean, probably means you can tighten up your operational procedures, right? I like to keep things that are done in these black or gray. Gray might even be archived, right? And that way I can always go to the day that I'm on and I can see where I'm at with stuff moving forward. So lots of different things you can do. Definitely talk to your success rep for Printavo to help you with color coding, naming conventions, all that kind of fun stuff. So let's talk about the new managed goods section. This might have been called purchase orders in the past. Now, if we click on managed goods, we're going to see we still have the ability for purchase orders, but we also have this new receiving tab right here. Now, before I dive in too deep here, I'm going to go ahead and pop over into an order that I've already prepped. Here, I've got this ordered. We've got the 1717 black comfort colors, and it looks like the order has been sent out for approval, right? So we can see this. We can say public invoice view. I'm going to go ahead and just take a look at this. We can take a look at the proof. This all looks good. I'm going to go ahead and approve this bad boy real fast. And it's going to set off a bunch of different automations that we've got connected into here, right? So if I refresh the screen right here, we're going to see it's going to move right into the ready for art status. So we can have different things populate. We can have tasks populate. all that fun stuff. Now, what I want to do from here is I can either go under more actions and I can say, you know what? I want to bulk set these goods to needs to order or to ordered, order received. I could also do that individually on line item instances by going into the edit view and clicking right here. So again, you can see you've got a couple different options. Now, in most instances, we're able to go ahead and just say we need to go ahead and do a bulk. Now, if I do the bulk and I put need to order, this is going to work the same way. So I'm going to go ahead and click this, and we're going to see it's going to work similarly to how it has always worked in the past in terms of needing to create a purchase order. So I'm going to go to purchasing under the manage goods section. I'm going to hit create purchase order. And there you can see there are those 1717s, right? So I can go ahead and make a new purchase. And if I'd like to, I can click into it. I can name things. I'm going to go ahead and go back real quick and just start dragging and dropping these into this purchase order or this PO. Now I can bring in other POs too. Maybe this one right here for Jane's shirts. I'm going to go ahead and bring those bad boys in too. And you know what? Why not? This coffee shop order, I'll bring those in as well. So I can bring as many as I would like to, and I can go ahead and go into the purchase order. And that's where we can see the different breaks of the different invoices I've got. And from here, you can do things such as you can send it to the vendor, or usually you're going to go online to their website and place that order. And you can go ahead and say from there, these have been ordered. So this is the traditional way that we've already used the purchasing section. Now, what I want to do is I want to show you here, we can see we can go to the invoice, but if I also zoom in a little bit, it says goods ordered, view and receiving. So if I click on view and receiving, it brings me to the receiving tab. And sure enough, I can actually see this orders receiving tab, right? Now, if I was to go ahead and go into PO602, it takes me right back here. I can even click into the invoice right here. And if I scroll down, I'm going to see same thing. It's on PO P602. I can view in receiving. So we've now seen how to put together a purchase order that then pushes into receiving. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a duplicate of this duplicate invoice. And this time I'm going to go ahead and just change this a bit. I'm going to say bulk set goods to ordered, meaning I'm going to skip the status of a purchase order. Not all of us use purchase orders, right? So if we don't use purchase orders and instead we just go ahead and fill the cart as the day populates, well, then I can go over here and I can still see, okay, goods ordered, view in receiving. So if I click on view in receiving here, it just says it's part of a quote number. It's not actually part of a PO. So I'm going to go into the receiving module as a whole and look at everything. And here we can see we've got some color coded breakouts. We've got white or kind of light gray, meaning nothing has happened. We've got yellow, which automatically shows there is something on the order that has been marked as received. In other words, partially received. And then if things are received, we're going to see those things go green, right? Which is the ideal state for all of this. So if I had to go back to need to receive, we can see we can group by PO, right? So under this PO right here, 602, I can see we've got a couple different invoices, but I can also say group by invoice, right? If I group by invoice, I'm seeing the individuals that are within POs, as well as seeing orders that maybe weren't even on the purchase orders, right? Now, for some of you, if you are trying to play along and click around on your screen, you might notice that if you go to receiving, needs to receive, group by invoice, you might have 20 pages, 30 pages, 5,000 pages, right? That's okay. A really, really great iteration update to this very new feature is you can bulk receive old goods. So the way it's going to work, folks, is if I go to page 2 or page 3, in this case, I'll go ahead and go to page 2. I can go ahead and say bulk receive old goods, and it's going to mark the page I'm on, page 2, through whatever the last page is. In this case, page 3. Yours might say 350, right? You can go ahead and do that, and it's going to just quickly mark all of those as bulk received. It might take a second. You might need to refresh your screen a couple times, but it'll start to kind of filter through and clean that up. That way, you're not left with lots and lots of pages of bad data. Here you can see I'm caught up with just the current page that I'm on right here. So from here, you've got a lot of opportunity, right? You can go ahead and say, yep, I got all those. Yep, I got all those. Maybe on this one, you only got 12 of those, right? Oh, not 120, 12, right? Maybe I got all those. Maybe that's it. So I can hit save, and it's going to go ahead and showcase in yellow. I've got 84 of the 114. Now, this is where it gets even cooler, guys. Check this out. I go into the order right there. Sure enough, I can see, let me zoom in a little bit. I can see exactly where I'm at. So without having to actually leave this page right here, if I'm kind of thumbing through, seeing where I'm at, I can see the exact quantities that I have received and what it is that I'm missing. If I go back into that order, it's taking me right specifically to just that line item, making it nice and easy. Now I can, of course, click on the receiving area and I can go back to look at things by other orders too, right? You can see right here, I'm already filtered down. If I go ahead and just click this X button, now I'm back to everything. So you can, of course, just mark the whole thing as received if you count things in, and ideally they would be marked as received. That makes it even easier. And again, this also works with group by PO. You can also mark everything on the order or individually, individual line items as received. So this is really a big update. And again, this is a customer driven update, right? Which again, we're kind of talking about here is customer driven innovation. You folks and the demand from shops like mine and shops like yours have been looking for a good native receiving module. I really think Printavo has knocked it out of the park on this one, right? You can also search right here by different purchase order numbers or invoice IDs to make that even easier. Now, I know that we don't like to talk too much about like, ooh, what's to come, but I'm going to break that rule anyways. And we're going to talk a little bit about what is to come. So we will be
not listening.
Yep, right. We will be adding in the ability for flagging and resolving an issue. So what I mean by that is right now we do have the ability to add receiving notes. You can kind of type in a receiving note and click save, and you'll be able to see that note right there. That is a great first step. However, we know the importance of being able to mark goods as damaged or missing or incorrect during check-in to be able to track issues in real time, prevent problem goods from advancing to production, and improve vendor accountability with logged issue tracking. So we are hard at work on that update, and that is something that we will be seeing sooner than later. Supplier images is also coming. Wouldn't it be amazing if this right here showcased what the azalea shirt might look like? Because what is azalea, right? So being able to know what these colors are, have a visual representation, makes the job of the receiver that much easier, right? Also, two-factor authentication for shop admins to improve account security is also something that is coming very, very, very soon. So for those of you who are on this call, or maybe you're watching this, we might edit that out later, actually. So those of you who are on this call are learning a little bit more about what is to come here quickly. So really, really excited. Personally, I'm ecstatic about this module. I personally don't use a lot of the purchase orders. I know a lot of shops that it helps their company so much. So for me, the group by invoice is clutch. So if you're a shop who uses POs, definitely still use the POs and gain the added benefit. If you're a shop who doesn't use the POs, that's also okay. You can group by invoice and still have these amazing optics on where you're at with those goods. So honestly, Craig, this is a really, really cool feature set and some really good updates that has really, really wowed me and impressed me with the updates coming out of the product team this year so far.
There's a humongous amount of forethought that goes into this feature planning. Obviously, coding is very expensive and a lot of human capital involved. And some of the things that we do behind the scenes is customer interviews. And when you guys are gracious enough to fill out the polls and responses. So the first, what we call the MVP, minimum viable product, that's the first thing that you guys see when it hits your app. That's the first iteration. What you're seeing here is actually kind of phase 2, and there's a whole bunch of other phases coming behind this. And Matt, we talked about the ones that we were approved to talk about, but there's some big things coming between now and the end of the year. And one of the things that had occurred to me, I was talking to a customer at a trade show recently, and he was talking about how they check in their orders pen and paper. And I was thinking back to the day when I was a warehouse clerk in my parents' screen printing business, and doing that, it's really not necessary. If you're a tablet-driven organization, give your employees a tablet. Matt, can you expand on that a little bit?
1,000%. Yeah. This, honestly, Printavo.com works wonderfully on an iPad or any kind of tablet that you can get your hands onto, right? Obviously, if in a tablet, probably good to get like a squishy or like a metal case in case you drop it, but it's going to happen, right? But being able to take this with you as you're counting in the box of goods really makes it so much faster and so much easier. And I've had to do the same thing where you're counting in garments all day long. Anybody who thinks receiving is an easy job hasn't done it, right? When you're dealing with goods coming in all day long, and again, you have to have binders of this season's Gildans, this season's comfort colors, this season's next levels. And you have to open the book up for swatches to see what is summer. Is summer blue or yellow? It's yellow, right? And try to figure out what that color looks like. So really excited to add the images to this, because now once we have the image there too, receiving will be able to have that tablet, see what the shirt should look like, be able to count those right in, mark them as updated, and feed right into our system, giving you next to live time optics. Really, really exciting. Yeah. To your point, Craig, you should be using a tablet over in the receiving section, especially now where you can add the notes, you can go do partials. It's a game changer, and it really helps with, if you're entering information, you're doing it once. You're not having to write it down and then go retypeset that. You're updating the one place you need to update. Single source of truth is such a make or break for your shop.
You guys all receive messages, if you've been with us in a while, about the Twilio compliance, and it was actually a pretty big initiative. What is this all about? I'm going to let Matt explain that to you, and why text messaging in Printavo is a big deal.
Absolutely. And actually, you know what I'm going to do? The first thing I'm going to go ahead and pop over into one of these orders that we've got set up. And if I go into this order and I scroll to the bottom, we can see right here, quote was changed from quote to quote approval. So with that, you can see an email was sent, and you can see an SMS was sent, and I can even view that SMS. Now, why is this so important? Well, if I go with a message right here, I can see we've got this email set up. So I like to add emojis into my emails as well as my text messages, and do things like this. This is a courtesy text message from Blue Shirt Printing. Hi, Matt. Please review your quote in the attachments. Click the images for more details. If okay, tap approve. For changes, hit decline and reply with feedback. Thanks. Right? What we have found is that shops that are utilizing text messages have about a 60% reduction in waiting time. That means you're cutting it in more than half, right? So if you want to get faster approvals, faster payments, faster responses from your customers, you can't be sleeping in their inbox, right? I'm on a call right now with Craig for the next hour, but if my phone ding, ding, dings, guess what? I'm going to see it, right? So if you want to actually make sure you're getting quicker responses from your customers and quicker notifications to your customers, text messaging is the modern way to do so. And I think all of you know that. If you think about your personal inbox, would you be a good customer if your personal inbox is where a print shop was waiting for you to approve something? Likely not, right? So text messaging is huge. Now, it's been around for a while. This is not necessarily a new feature. However, the laws around SMS text messaging has changed pretty drastically in the last 18 to 24 months. For the better, to be completely honest. I'm not sure, Craig, if you've ever experienced getting a text message, you're like, this doesn't seem right? And that's going to be called a phishing scam, right? And in SMS, it's literally called smishing, right? It's text phishing. So what they've tried to do is all of North America and the European Union and a couple others have come together to create new laws and legislation around how you can utilize texting in terms of businesses to consumers. And it's definitely made it a lot safer. So what that means is now with the Twilio account that you have, and it wasn't just Twilio, it's everybody that's offering text messaging at a large scale, they have to obey by these laws. And what this does is it helps validate that you are an actual enterprise or you're a business. And it also validates that your customers have agreed to receiving these text messages. That way there's no nefarious texting happening. Because unfortunately, some bad actors in the world were doing some of these nefarious SMS phishing or smishing campaigns that were getting people to unfortunately lose some personal data. So with that, some new laws have gone into play. The good news is if you do not have texting set up yet, you could get a hold of your success manager at Printavo, and they will help walk you through the now slightly more complex process of getting set up. But it's really not that hard for them. They'll help you run through it right away. Easy peasy. So under messaging down here, this is where you're going to be able to see your SMS messaging. And you're going to see there are a couple more steps than there used to be. That is okay. Those steps are for your safety as well as your customer safeties. And your customers are going to have to actually approve they're willing to get a text message. These can be done here. We can see not opted in for SMS. If you create a new contact, you're talking to the customer, maybe they're in front of you or on the call, go ahead and ask them, hey, do you mind if I opt you into our SMS? Don't worry, it's not going to be me sending you coupons and spam. It's really me getting a hold of you directly through our system about your current orders. And they're going to say yes, right? So when that happens, you can go ahead and click on that button and opt into SMS. Again, only when you've gotten verbal consent from them to do so. The other way you can do that is you can also send them over their public profile. Their public profile, you can see right here, email a public profile, and you can update the customer. It'll email that to them. You can also view their public profile, and that'll also have an option where they are able to then opt into SMS updates right there too. So it has to be an implicit update from the customer. Either they click it or they give you a verbal agreement to be able to say, yes, I am okay with receiving SMS updates. And then you'll be able to confidently know your customers are getting quick responses. Now, if you have not set this up yet and you're wondering, well, what happens to the landline? Well, landlines don't get received text messages, so it's just not going to go. That's okay though. When in doubt, put a phone number in there, right? And when you're asking your customer, hey, can I get your cell phone so I can text you? They're going to say no. Don't say that. Hey, what's the best number to get a hold of you about your order? They're going to need your cell phone. Then you're going to say, hey, we're going to have our system automatically send you a message when we need you to approve something, review something, or pay something. Sound good? Oh yeah, that's fine. Right? If you say, hey, what's your cell phone number? They're going to think you're going to start spamming them like crazy. That's not what we're doing. So make sure to help set the case for the customer to understand better about it. And again, if you're not using text messaging right now, I really think you're missing out. Again, 60% reduction in waiting time. All you have to do is talk to your customer success manager for Printavo. They'll help you out. If you're not sure who that is, just go ahead and email success@printavo.com and they'll help you out, or even support@printavo.com, and they'll help you get in touch with your success rep to make sure you are making the most of your Printavo account with the partnership with Twilio. Craig, any thoughts on the Twilio side of things?
So we need to get new trade show shirts, which Matt and I are twinning today. And so I had the blanks ordered. I sent Matt a little email saying, hey, we need these printed. And about 5 minutes later, I get a text message on my phone saying, hey, pay. I mean, I was figuring I was going to get terms, and I wasn't really mentally prepared to have to do an expense report. And I was like, okay, so I just got my company card out and I paid. And then I got another text message saying, hey, thanks for paying. Do you mind referring somebody? If you refer somebody, you're going to get a little discount on your next order. And I'm like, okay. And then I had the receipt and I screen captured the receipt. I uploaded it into Expensify, did my expense report. I was done, out of sight, out of mind. And what I didn't realize is all along that path, that journey of that order, I was getting a text message. When the goods arrived from the supplier, I got a message. When they went to production, I got a message. When they were completed in production. So Matt just made it super easy for me to do business with him, but he also conditioned me to prepay. And so I actually, once I did it once, I was like, yeah, this is easy. I'll just get the expense report out of the way right away and be done with it. So that was my only comment, but I'll pass back to you to talk about supplier login credentials.
Yeah, and real quick, when it comes to SMS, the one thing I do want to kind of add in there is think outside the box a little bit. And to Craig's point also, yeah, let's prepay. We should have a goal of prepaying, right? But one thing that I do as a business owner as well is I utilize those text messages for other reasons, right? So we're looking at the blue shirt printing. This is kind of like our demo account. For my print shops account, I have other things happening too. So for example, when we have an order approved, I have it send me a text message saying this order's been approved, and it gives me the public invoice for the work order. So right from my phone, I was in Thailand for a couple of weeks, right? I was getting these text messages and I could just click on the work order, take a look at what's happening at the shop and keep up to date with things without ever having to actually go to a computer, right? If we have something in production, go in the power scheduler and go into maybe a status that says issue, right? Maybe printing drop down issue. You can have that as a trigger that also sends a text message to the production manager for screen printing saying there's an issue on press. And it puts the work order right there so they can pull it up, start figuring out what the issue is as they're walking out to press, meaning your press operator isn't walking around, going to the bathroom, going missing for 30 minutes. So you can leverage text messaging in so many fun ways. I really, really urge you to explore that a bit more. Next up, we have supplier login credentials, right? So we're going to go underneath my account back here. I call it popping the hood, right? So pop the hood, go to my account. And you're going to scroll down a little bit of a ways, and you're going to see product catalogs, right? So product catalogs here, you're going to be able to connect SNS and SanMar. Alpha Broder obviously used to be on this list. However, they no longer are because they are now a part of SNS Activewear, and all those products are now available in that pricing book, which is wonderful. So with this, you get real-time accurate pricing in your quotes, reduced manual entry errors, and competitive pricing via your negotiated rates, right? So if you actually have your account number and your API key put into here, you'll be able to pull in your actual pricing, right? Now, if you have this filled in, you're going to be able to get, again, your specific pricing. If you don't have it toggled on and you've got your credentials connected, you should be getting what's called the global pricing, which is still their standard wholesale pricing, right? So again, if you want specific pricing, you'll make sure to have to connect into your account. Otherwise, from there, you'll get just the standard global wholesale pricing. Now, something I want to make sure to reiterate, we're not pulling sale pricing. Regardless if you're using global pricing or your specific negotiated rate pricing, it is a sale. Maybe it brings it down a quarter. That sale will show, if you're logged into SNS and SanMar, it'll show a sale price. We do not pull the sale price because the sale is a temporary timed thing. What happens if the sale price was pulled and you send it to the customer waits a week and a half to approve it, and they approve it, you go to buy, sale's done, and you're angry at us, right? So to keep that safe, what we've done is we've made sure to always utilize the wholesale pricing, your wholesale pricing if you're connected, otherwise the global wholesale pricing if you're not, to help make sure that any additional savings is yours to choose to do with, or we're not going to get you in trouble by accidentally offering a sale price.
I want to introduce the topic of billing contacts in customers with customers. And I said something to Matt yesterday. It was pretty funny. We were doing our little pre-webinar. I said, it's not the most exciting topic to talk about. And then Matt was like, stop me in my tracks. And I said, let me tell you why this is a big deal, which I'm going to let him do that. But I want to share something with you. This is kind of behind the curtains a little bit again, is, we do a lot of trade shows. I do a lot of shows. I have a pretty steady stream of clients that come up to me and voice their opinions about things. And the billing contact thing has just been a persistent issue for us a long time. And from my point of view, as like putting myself in the customer's, place, I'd be like, well, that doesn't seem like it's a big deal. Just add a billing contact to the contact, so I make some kind of innocuous comment like that to the product team. And they're like, Craig, have you thought of all the downstream impacts of that? And I'm like, what? He says, well, that impacts the customer account. It impacts short codes. It impacts automation, messaging, payment requests. It's woven into all parts of the application. So it was very enlightening for me, even though I have a background in software development, to understand that there's sometimes these things that we think are just little things that shouldn't be any big deal to change actually have downstream implications that require a lot of loose ends to be tidied up. So I'm going to hand over to you, Matt.
Yeah, I think it's a really good way to say that too. I am proud to say that I had my 5-year official anniversary of working here at Inktavo this last week. I was working with them a couple of years prior to that, just as an outside kind of consultant and rep, but 5 years official. And when I joined in, same thing. I was like, it should be easy, right? Well, easy doesn't mean simple, right? And so the unknown ramifications, the ripple effect, if you will, of software is usually many-fold more complex than most of us understand. And that's been really humbling for me in my 5 years here. And I think I've kind of gone from it's easy to really trying to see where that ripple effect takes place, like Craig mentioned there. So what I've done here is I've gone ahead and gone into one of our customers, right? Now in this customer, John Doe, we can see we've got a couple additional contacts, including a billing contact. So let's click edit right here and let's talk about that. So having a general contact is something we've already had in Printavo for a long, long time. We've also had the ability to have additional contacts. Now, the general, you don't need to put John again here. If John's the general, you can leave that there. The general also does not need to have a proper noun other than the company name. You can leave it as John Doe Acme Productions or just Acme Productions, and John can be a separate one completely if you'd like to as well. Now, in this case, we've got John Dowson as the go-to for this company. And then here we've got Jane, and we've got Officer Larry, right? So right underneath it, you can actually see we've got this new billing contact. Now, it will only allow us to have a singular option between all the contacts that we have, and that is what dictates who is the billing contact. Now, where does this come into play? Well, for my shop personally, we work with a couple companies that maybe has a dozen salespeople, and the salespeople are all about their orders up until it's, hey, can you pay? Then all of a sudden, they're like, whoa, 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 that's not my job. I would love to have the job. I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff, right? But they'll say, oh, hey, you got to talk to Jane. Jane handles all the payments. Well, then me sending an email when the job's done to John or the job's done to Larry for payment isn't really going to help me. They're going to go, oh, it's got to go to Jane. Now, in a perfect world, they would just forward it to Jane, but that's not usually how it works. You're like, oh, you send it to Jane for me. It's like, come on, man. So either way, this just makes it a lot easier. What we can do here is we can say, okay, Jane is going to be our billing contact, right? Now, what that means is we can actually build automations around this. So if I head over into our automations portal down here, and I say, you know what, I want to create an automation, and I want to say that if the status has changed to, and I want to go ahead and say order is shipped, well, then I can go ahead and I can say I want to request payment for 100% of the balance, and I want that to go to, and check it out over here. We've got the contact billing email address right here. So that short code is now able to be brought into light. Now I can also say I'm going to go ahead and CC the customer email because we want to make sure the sales rep is aware this order is done. But we're going to bring in now for the first time on an order instance, the payment to the contact billing email address. So this is huge, right? It's also why it's more than just adding that person. We have to add that person and bring in the ease of use to be able to talk to that person. Now, within orders themselves, you're also able to do a little bit more too. Let's go ahead and jump into this order randomly, and I'm going to click right here. And what you're going to see is you'll be able to see if you had additional people, you'll be able to click down and see who this person was. In this case, I chose a random order. There's only one contact, but I'd be able to actually see if there was a billing contact. I could manually choose the billing contact within my messaging area as well. So kind of like Craig said, it's one of those things where for a lot of folks, they might not have fully understood the importance of this feature, but it truly is a really, really amazing feature that is very, very helpful to know about and know how to utilize. So that's going to be, again, the billing contact, which helps you streamline invoice delivery, reduce time chasing payments, accurate automation with short codes. Just make sure you know how to assign your billing contact. The info is retained in emerging customer records as well, in case you were nervous at all about that. I'm going to go ahead and stop my share, and I'm going to kick it back over to you, Craig.
Part of my job, in addition to education, my job on the marketing team is I work on developing the marketing strategies and marketing communication around payments. And in order to do that, I had to learn about it. And I have to admit, I was pretty naive when it came to payments, but I understood how it worked. I mean, I owned a business called Digital Art Solutions, which evolved into Graphics Flow, and we'd process millions of dollars worth of payments a year. And I knew all the trials and tribulations dealing with our processors and dealing with disputes and reconciliating payments with invoices and all that stuff. But I didn't really understand all the moving parts. And I didn't have a huge appreciation for Printavo automated payments until I dug in. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And then I'm going to actually show you some new features and some development that we've done within the app that makes your life a little bit easier. But, I think in today's day and age, Matt, I think you'll agree with me on this. How important is it to make it easy for your customer to do business with you?
I mean, you kind of think of it like the Amazon effect. I hear it all the time, right? And I don't like the excuse of like, oh, our customer base, they're a little older. No, they're using Amazon. They're ordering Domino's. They're ordering Jimmy John's for freaky fast delivery, right? They know how to use tech. So we can't minimize that when they're already actively using it. And if we're not meeting them with the ease of use of these modern products and processes, well, we're going to left behind, right? So it's very important to make sure to streamline the process with the customer, kind of like you experienced in my shop, Craig, right? Where I just literally told you exactly what needed to happen, and put it right in your palm of your hand to help make sure we move that needle forward.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I'll talk to customers that have Printavo. It's their daily driver. They run their shop with it, and they're using QuickBooks to do their invoicing and their payments. And I'm always going to ask them the question. I'm like, why are you doing that? You're having to reconcile everything. You have to talk to them if you have an issue. So, well, yeah, but my rates. And I'm like, have you really taken a close look at your rates? Because if you compare Printavo automated payment rates to what you're paying with QuickBooks, they're pretty comparable, and in some cases we're actually cheaper because when you look at all the little nickel and dime fees you end up paying, that's a real thing. So let's be honest, like when you're looking at a payment processor, usually the most important thing that people are looking at is rates. And we are competitive when it comes to rates, but there's a lot of other serious benefits to payments. So for instance, getting paid faster. The example of me ordering those shirts to be printed from Matt, from a cash flow point of view, if Matt had actually paid for those blanks, it would have been really nice for him to get those paid up front, because then he would just turn around and order his wholesale goods if they weren't sitting on the shelf somewhere. So that faster payment, and then kind of that centralized payment insight. Not only can you poke your head into Printavo and see what's going on with your payments, you can do it on the mobile app. If you're on vacation and you just kind of want to see how much money do we got coming in, so you can rest a little easier. You just whip your phone out and you can see how much money you've got coming in. And so that's really huge. And, that visibility, that embedded visibility across your orders on where you stand with payments. And when we get into payment requests, we'll kind of dig into that a little bit. So it is actually a pretty big deal, and it's all under one platform. And I can only speak for myself, having, processed millions of dollars in payments over the years with digital art solutions. It's generally not a great experience having to get on the horn with somebody, a third-party payment processor, because there's some kind of dispute or some form of drama, or they put a hold on your account because they've seen some kind of large transactions filtering through. And, I remember a couple of our processors, we'd be waiting days to hear about that. One of the things that's cool about Printavo automated payments is you're talking to the same CSM that's managing your account versus a third party. And if they have to get on the horn with the processor, they're doing it, not you. And so that improved communication and that trust building you do with your CSMs, I think contributes to a much better experience for you, and also a better experience for your customer. And then also fewer errors. Payment errors are pretty dramatic. So being able to poke yourself into an order, or even on the mobile app, just to see what's going on with your payments and your orders, is a pretty big deal. And it definitely helps with cash flow, which is super duper important right now. All right, so let's dig in a little bit. And I'm in my Printavo account. You'll notice you'll have this little tab down here that says payments. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but there's been a lot of changes in this area, and mainly has to do with all the filtering and labeling. So you have increased visibility on what's going on. So I can come over here and I can sort by transaction type if I'm looking for payments, refunds, any kind of disputes, returns. With Printavo automated payments, that's all happening within your account. You're not having to go over to your QuickBooks or your external processor. You're doing that right in here. And you also have access to the payments portal, which is the processing portal. So if you needed more additional detail, like ID numbers and things like that around your payments, you can do that. I can go down here and let's see, I just want to see my open requests. Looks like I got a couple open requests. Let's go back to payments. Let's say I've got different categories. I want to see what I've got going on for credit cards versus ACH. And can you talk a little bit about ACH, Matt, as far as like when it's appropriate to use that and setting kind of thresholds within a customer's account for ACH?
Yeah, absolutely. So with payments, you're able to set global settings, and global settings include things like a threshold. So you've got credit card payment and you've got ACH payment. Now, your rate will kind of depend on whatever your rate is. Our default rate is 3.5% for credit card processing. Again, we can go into rate reviews and you can work with your CSM. We can see where it needs to land. That is the standard for the industry. However, we do have the ability for ACH to render it as a 1% ACH capped at $20. What does it all mean? Well, that means if someone's got a $5,000 order, well, what would 3.5% of that be? Well, that'd be like $175, right? Well, if we opted to do ACH on that one, there'd be 1%, which would be $50. However, it's capped at 20, meaning you wouldn't have to lose more for processing than that $20 plus 30 cents per transaction, right? So $20, and knowing you're never going to pay more than $20 in ACH is a really, really big deal, right? ACH is going to be an account transfer. Think of it like just having the funds leave from one bank and going to the other bank. And that is something you can set up and do. Now you can do it to say, hey, globally required, or globally offer ACH or offer credit card, or you can set a threshold in which you can say, you know what, at $3,000, I want to turn off credit card and require ACH. And you can also adjust that threshold or that setting per user. So what Craig's looking at here is the global setting. Under each customer, you're also able to either leave the global settings applicable, or you can actually override the global settings at each customer level. There you go. And then you can scroll down to below the contacts, and you're going to see right there, payment methods, override global settings. Go ahead and toggle that. And boom, you've got another setting set for just this customer. So I'll deal with a couple of companies that they're government entities. They might want to do, hey, we don't have a credit card. We're going to only do ACH. And so for them, we might want to say, hey, no matter what, only ACH for them, which makes it real easy to go ahead and apply that to the customer. And then every time you have an automated message request payment, it's going to be in the way that you want it to be for that customer.
Back to the payments area, customer, I can go in and if I just want to screen by the specific customer, I can do that. And then also I can screen by date range as well, just to kind of see what's going on in payments. And then there's some additional options and things that you can do within here. And here's how you'd go back to your global settings if you need to change that. But back in payments, you will notice at the top, you are going to see open payment requests. There's two types of payment requests in here. One is a single payment request right here for $533.64. And the other one is a multi-payment request for 3 different orders. That's $4,000. And this was another huge request from customers. Here's what happens: that you have a store maybe that's set up. And that store, you're not actually collecting money in the store. You're basically using it to collect the orders, and at the end of the month, you're going to compile everything and then bill the customer all at once. So you have 100 orders to process. Wouldn't it be great to just be able to select all 100 orders and then to send out a single payment request? So let me show you how you would actually do a payment request. I think most folks are familiar with this. I created a quickie little invoice here for some football shirts. I used a graphic from Graphics Flow for my little mock-up over here. It turned out pretty nice, little patch design. I think it'd be fun to do that, and maybe a DTF print, something along that nature. And so I want to get this $856 collected. So basically you have a dedicated area over here, payments and expenses. In this particular account, we're accepting both ACH or credit cards. And I'm going to go over here and click on payment request. Now over here, I can go and put in the amount that I want. And maybe it's going to be 50% of this. Maybe I'm only collecting half of it. We'll go ahead and put that in there. You've got any kind of email messaging or SMS messaging. So we don't have SMS set up on this account, but if we did, I would have my little draft for my SMS. And then all I would need to do is just request the payment, and that's zipping out to the customer. And that's going to be an open payment within my system. Now, if I had multiple payments for the same customer, I could do a multi-payment request, in which case they would just get, this is like a list of invoices that they could pay. And so you have quite a bit of latitude in terms of how you're going to process that. Multi-payment request is going to have a multitude of orders within the same customer, and you're just collating them together. And so you just have a choice. You either do a single payment request. In that case, there's only one order open for that customer. But if I had 3 or 4 orders open for that customer, I would have selected multi-payment and picked the amount of money that I would want to request. And that's what would generate this right here. And here's that request right here. So I selected order 23, 25, and 24. It looks like I requested the whole thing, but I could have just requested half if I wanted to. And you notice I can go in and click into this anytime I want. And there's also a public link. So the customer, is seeing all this data as well, and they could be seeing it on their phone. When we send out these payment requests, what the customer is actually seeing is the public link, and along with any order statuses. What's some of the details that are available in the public link, Matt, that you find to be useful?
It definitely showcases the actual links to the public invoice for each of them, so they can actually click into them and see what all those invoices are. I personally utilize this feature in my print shop often, and not for the same case use that you mentioned, Craig. It's a fantastic case use, of course, for a lot of shops doing a lot of online stores. We also have lots of park districts and lots of government entities, and so we've got them on net 30, but I think we all know it's really whenever Janet has the checkbook, right? Yeah, so what we'll often do, it's always Janet. So what we'll often do is we'll be like, hey, you know what? We're just going to go ahead and bulk invoice you for these like 3 that you're between 25 and 60 days on, and we're just going to need you to go ahead and process check for all three of those. I'll send over that invoice to those, right? And they love that, right? And so there's other times outside of that where you might just have a big customer with running orders say, hey, every month, just go ahead and just invoice me whatever I've got that's approved, and we'll just go ahead and do it that way too. And it makes it real easy. When they process the payment on one, it'll break apart to show paid on all those individual ones. It can trigger automations, do everything it has to do. It's a great feature.
I'm a huge fan of automations because I'm a huge fan of taking human error out of the equation. And the more things you can automate and remove people from, the fewer mistakes you have and the more efficient you are. And Matt and I were chatting before the webinar today about how kind of reliant we are on AI. But I think it kind of circles back to, we want to be smart about the way we run our business. And if we can reduce the amount of human capital that goes into doing something, we can scale because we can purpose that time for other things that maybe are bringing business in, and we also reduce mistakes. And I know how much we all enjoy, backing up to Goodwill with a box of shirts with a typo on it because we didn't send we didn't spell check it twice, or we didn't hit a due date because we lost track of visibility in the order and the customer's event was already passed by the time we delivered it. So that's where all of this automation, in Printavo is pretty huge, but especially around payments. It's massive around payments. The next thing I wanted to transition to in payments was the mobile app. And so you have the same level of visibility on the mobile app. It's not quite as detailed as what you see in the payment section of Printavo, but you can see what money is coming in. You can look at your payment requests and you can initiate things. So mobile app is awesome. And I would challenge any of you that are not using the mobile app, just go to the App Store, iOS, Android, download it. You'll just log in with your regular Printavo credentials. And I think you will be super impressed. And we've put a lot of juice into the mobile app in the last 24 months. We've really put a lot of energy into it. And honestly, I think it's one of our differentiators when you look at what Printavo is doing versus what a lot of the other people in the marketplace are doing. So definitely challenge yourself, download the mobile app, install it, and I think you'll be quite pleasantly surprised if you're not already using it on how useful it is.
I can tell you firsthand, I spent the last 2 weeks in Thailand, right, on vacation with my wife and kind of exploring trends in the garment world too. But having the app on my phone was able to kind of calm any concerns I might have had, right? It's not going to be the full robust printavo.com, but I'm able to see where quotes are at. I'm able to do quotes, able to see where invoices are at, see payments, see a lot of that stuff and add those optics that are really, really nice to help you kind of have peace of mind if you're on a beach or if you're walking with elephants in Thailand, right? So everything in between, the app is definitely worth the time if you haven't downloaded it, iOS and Android, and a really, really great feature for Printavo users.
We have a pretty rockin' YouTube channel, and we're prolific when it comes to content. And, I think a lot of folks are used to seeing all the video recordings for the, our podcast, the Print Hustlers podcast, but there's tons of training content that's built out. And if you go into the playlist on the Printavo YouTube channel, you'll see Printavo feature highlights. If you just need a high level video on how to do something in Printavo, this is where you go. And Power Scheduler is a great example. Matt is an absolute master of the Power Scheduler, but it'd be pretty neat to just be able to watch a great new video, 5 minutes long, a concise little video. This is how you use the Power Scheduler. Because I guarantee you, the way you think you use the Power Scheduler is probably not the way you should be using the Power Scheduler. Is that fair to say, Matt?
There's the standard way, then there's the let's really use it to its full form, and there's a lot that people are missing out on.
Yeah, so here's a little 5-minute video on how to do that. But the main thing I wanted to do is show you the Printavo new features playlist, and make sure you hit the subscribe button and like our videos. We always appreciate that. I think we're subscribers. We're over 10,000 now, I think.
We're over 10,000.
Yeah, so if you go in here, you have a playlist of all the new functionality that we've added going back. I think this playlist goes back to the middle of 2024. And so the first 13 videos are actually going to be the most recent ones. And it's pretty much what the short form of what we covered here in the class today. So, when we publish this video, it'll be all chaptered so you can jump ahead and get to things. But if you want the short attention span version that's slowed down a little bit, that's a little slower pace because we're trying to get through a lot of content in an hour, this is where you go for that. And then obviously using the internal resources that are built into Printavo around the help center and knowledge base. And then also we have the little messaging system in Printavo that what we use to let you guys know there's a new feature. And then if it's a really big thing, you'll get a Pendo message that pops up. So make sure to take advantages of those training resources and to reach out to your CSM if you need clarity around something. Anything you'd like to add to that before we wrap up, Matt?
No, yeah, that's great. There's one thing on the Printavo side too. There's a little learn button toward the top of your screen. So there it is, right up top, that learn button. You can click that learn button and it's going to have different media based on what page you're on, pop up and actually on screen help show you and teach you. Usually there's a video, maybe the next button that kind of guide you around. So between the YouTube channel, the learn button, as well as your ability to email your success rep and get help, not to mention the vast archives of content that Craig's made, I've made, other people have made. We've got data to support you as well as humans here to support you.
We take the customer experience very seriously. And Matt and I, we use an internal messaging tool in the office called Slack. And when there's a customer that's in distress or has a problem or something needs to be escalated, the whole team mobilizes around that. And it's honestly, it's quite impressive. And, we're not perfect. Obviously we make mistakes like anybody else does, but we really put in the effort to make sure, customers are tucked in. But again, we don't know about it unless you let us know. So if you have an issue, please reach out because we're here to help you get through that. So thank you so much for joining us today. And it's been a pleasure kind of walking through and maybe showing off just a little bit on some of the new things that we've introduced. But you're just kind of getting a sneak peek of maybe what's to come. There's big things ahead of us. We're privileged, both Matt and I, to see the roadmap and to see what's coming. We're super stoked. We're super excited. I think you guys will be too. And I'll just pass it back to Matt for any closing words.
Yeah, absolutely. And really kind of going back to the customer driven. We really are customer driven. We listen to the customers. There's lots of reach out that we do. I talk to dozens of shops per day. Luckily, I've worked thousands of shops in my time here at Inktavo, and we care, we listen. It's not just what my shop's experiencing or one of the shops experiencing. We're listening to the masses, right? So please be sure to let us know how we can improve. Let us know your success story. Let us know your failures and tribulations, and let's work together to keep making Printavo and Inktavo the best it can be for you folks, the industry that Craig and I care deeply for, and this industry cares deeply for.
So thank you again for joining us on the webinar, and we'll do this again sometime.